Welcome to the Chilliwack Independent Film Festival. My name is Marinelle Nisley, and I have the honor of hosting this behind-the-scenes fireside chat. There's no fire, but it's a chat with Gigi Saul Guerrero.
Yay, thank you.
Gigi is
I was hoping for fire, I'll be honest. So
you're the fire. You're going to bring the fire.
This is the best crowd, by the way. Best crowd. Solid crowd. It's packed.
She is a super phenom actor and director, otherwise known as La Muñeca de Terror. She's directed over 20 films, features, and shorts. She's the co-founder of Luchagore and a directing instructor at Vancouver Film School in her downtime. So, Gigi, welcome. I am so beyond thrilled to get chosen to be the one that gets to talk to you today.
Yay! Well, I'm thankful because I know horror is still a thing you're challenging yourself with, so that's always exciting.
It's true. It's a very new road for you that you started, actually. So, first, welcome. And
thank you.
How are you doing? How are you enjoying the festival?
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here. The first time I ever was part of the Chilliwack Independent Film Festival was during pandemic. So it was all virtual, and I actually had no idea what anyone looked like. I thought the festival director was an older woman, by the name Taraz. I'm like, oh, maybe it's, a nice older lady. Met him, a young, cool guy. Everybody part of the festival, they're like, everybody's so hip and cool. Like I've never been to Chilliwack either. So, everybody's looking at me with my giant coat that looks like a sleeping bag, walking around like, it's so cold here, but I love it at the same time. The people are nice. Food is great. That's why I'm wearing loose pants. I'm having a blast. And more than anything, I'm really, really happy to see so many filmmakers here and everybody putting the effort, not just to come present their movies, but the amount of support and the amount of community. To me, that's what a film festival is about, is building community. It's not politics, it's not clout, it's not who's the popular one there. And I find that happens a lot. I think this industry tends to focus more on the clout and the popularity of something or someone rather than the support and the community of it. And to me, the first 5 minutes here, I was like, this is going to be a big, big festival. So it's amazing to be here.
That's so cool. Yeah, I really feel that way about Chilliwack. Things that happen in Chilliwack tend to feel that way. During the pitch sessions here, there was so much camaraderie just between the people that were here. They're in competition for the same funds, but everybody just gets that camaraderie.
It's true.
Going.
Yesterday at the bar of all places, I met so many filmmakers being like, "Oh, they pitched with me. Give me a sec. I need to go meet them." It's like, "Oh, that's awesome." It's usually like, "Oh, they're too good," But this time it was like a whole support thing happening. I loved every second of it.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so yes, as you mentioned, I am a horror novice, aka gigantic weenie when it comes to everything horror. I really was surprised when they approached me to talk with you, and so I was like, okay, I gotta grit down and watch some of these films, and but it was. It just really made me really curious about the genre because I could take it. I really enjoyed them, and I was like, wow, this actually really is a powerful medium for storytelling. So tell me what you find special about horror as a genre.
For sure. I mean, horror goes way, way back, but it's always been to me the best genre because it gives you full escapism to the max, because I think what we see in the world every day is horrific enough. And as a filmmaker, in my case anyways, I really want to give people escapism for those 90 minutes, those 20 minutes for a short, whatever it is, to just let it all go, to let go of all the things that actually traumatize us, horrifies us. And I wouldn't want an audience to watch my film and suffer through it in the way that it reminds them too much of something that maybe is too real, something that reminds them that's current. We already got the news and social media that's scary enough that for me, I just want people to have something to talk about after they were entertained. And I think horror is amazing in that sense that you can take any subject matter, whether it's political or a universal topic of some sort, that we can all relate, and we're gonna have a good time watching it. But if you're able as a filmmaker, like Jordan Peele, for example, to get people talking after your movie, then you're doing something pretty amazing, and you're bringing awareness to something important. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, I think genre is so special in that sense. And the thing that got me so into it was something I always like to share, is that a horror movie can follow you home. I always love to express that. I think movies in general can stick with you, but if a horror movie can follow you home, whether it's that night, days later, weeks later, like The Exorcist, years later, how amazing is that? Like, I think my mom thought Linda Blair was like real in her house for years. Like, I think she thought like Pazuzu is real and it's still here with us. Like, what movies can do that to you? I think only horror. So my first experience of learning what it's like to feel the presence of a film was with Chucky, and I was 8 years old. And I remember not understanding what that was. Okay, let me sidetrack. I'm sorry. So I stole a movie at 8 years old from Blockbuster. I grew up in a very Catholic, very religious house. Everything is the devil to my mom and grandma, like everything. You put your purse on the ground, Mija, the devil's gonna take your money. Like everything is this to everything. So I wasn't allowed to watch anything scary, nothing. But, you know, coming from Mexico, like, we see a lot of crazy stuff, and we're very spiritual people. We believe in everything, and we kind of enjoy believing in everything, too. So my favorite thing to do was going to Blockbuster and walking down the horror aisle and looking at all the VHS covers, all the DVD covers, and making up whatever it's about. I loved being like, oh, I bet this movie's about this, and this one's about that. But then there was the one cover, Child's Play 2. And if anybody remembers or doesn't remember, Child's Play 2 cover is Chucky with giant scissors cutting another doll's head. That's the cover. And I was like, but Toy Story, they love each other. And I'm from the 90s, so that was messed up. You know, like Buzz would never do that to Woody. You kidding me? So I took the VHS. I got in a lot of trouble, but that night, being rebellious and my curiosity winning over my mom, I think I only saw maybe 40 minutes of Child's Play 2. But when I turned it off so scared, I felt that presence that we're talking about. I didn't understand why I was so excited that I felt Chucky was in the closet. I didn't understand that.
I'm listening to you and I don't understand.
I don't understand. I didn't know that that's what you call fear. And I would open and close the closet being like, but I feel him here. And I didn't understand until I'm like, wow, movies can do that to you, especially horror movies. And it was all downhill from there. Yeah.
It's so true. Even cover art can do that to you. I totally remember the Chucky's, cutting off the doll's head.
It's
and also
iconic.
Troll. What was it? Do you remember Troll? Like the cover?
Yep.
Man, it just
and
that
Leprechaun
creepy little...
was another good one.
Yeah. No, it really definitely sticks with you. No, that's cool to hear. That's cool to hear.
Yeah.
So you were talking about the escapism of it, but it's kind of interesting because, you know, my little dabblings in horror, which, by the way, I think the last one I watched was The Exorcist, and then neighbors came over because I was screaming so loud. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think I actually even finished it.
Man, that movie...
This was after I moved out, Mom.
It's so great. That movie still, it aged perfect. Like, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
I still, you know, a lot of people think it's such a cliche thing to do. What's the best horror movie and all this? But honestly, it still stands, and it stands really strong. In Mexico, in year 2000, The Exorcist came back out. Remastered, deleted scenes added, recolored. I don't know if it happened in America, but in Mexico in the year 2000, Exorcist was back. And I remember telling my mom, I'm turning 10, so I'm being a 2-digit number now. I'm old enough to do whatever I did a whole thing. And so my mom was like, okay, all right, let's go. And so she's like, and bring your cousin too. And my cousin and I, we were the worst little people out there. Like, we were not good kids. And so she drops us off, and I'm like, aren't you coming? She's like, no, see you in 2 hours. She like drove out, and I'm like, okay, let's go. And I think my mom thought that was gonna be the perfect trap for me to be traumatized. It didn't work. Like, I remember that night being like, Linda Blair is in the house. You know, like, it was weird.
How about your poor cousin?
Oh, yeah, she cried for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, no, she was not okay. She was definitely not okay. But there's just something, I guess, I think in general it goes for everybody. When something's almost like a forbidden fruit, something you're not supposed to, don't push the red button. You're gonna want to push the red button, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost hard to not approach something that you're like, but why? Mm-hmm. So for me, definitely horror was the why. Why can't I see that?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, with your childhood, was there ever any doubt that you were going to be in film? I mean, you're such a vivacious person, and you went into horror so early. Like,
it's all accident. All complete accident. I wanted to be the first Mexican Winter Olympic athlete.
Is that right?
Believe it or not, yes.
What sport?
Everyone here's like,
guesses as to the sport.
No, I'm kidding. No, listen, hey, like when we moved here, is the sound off?
I feel like
doesn't
something
matter.
happened. Yeah.
We're loud enough. Oh, it's back. When we moved here from Mexico, it was like we reenacted Cool Runnings, but Mexican. It was like the same thing.
Nice.
We were so cold, but to me, coming from Mexico, it was a very heavily focused sports school in Mexico. So I did a lot of swimming, track and field, and tennis. My dad's like, you're gonna be the next tennis player, like better than the twins, right? And yeah, okay, Dad, those girls are pretty great. And so when we moved here, I was like, oh man, like I wanna skate and play hockey. And I started doing all those things for real. Until by total accident in high school, I was too late in the elective courses. I didn't know, maybe it's a Canadian thing, I'm not sure, that you have to hurry up to do any elective course if you want to be in the good one. I didn't know. I thought it was just, that's your course and that's what you learn. So all the courses I wanted were full, everything, except for drama class, theater class in White Rock at Earl Marriott. And I was like, well, that's an easy one to skip. I don't need to go to drama class. I'll just skip it. Man, I was like, Mom, Dad, I want to be a musical star. I want to go to Broadway. And they're like, what? Okay. And so I was just doing sports on the side. And I remember booking my first commercial right away at 16. It was for Zales Jewelry. And then I did another Wonder Bread commercial too. And just seeing the crew, the amount of cameras, the amount of people to make a commercial, I didn't know that that's what it was about. And I was like, whoa, what is all this? So my interest was kind of there. And then the thing that totally sparked, I want to go to film school, I want to be a director, was when I turned 16, which, by the way, I was a very immature kid. And if anybody here is a younger sibling, then you very much understand your only mission in life is to ruin your siblings' lives, all the older ones. So at 16, being really immature, I was only watching horror movies. I knew in English anything Adam Sandler would say in movies. I could quote Sister Act like the back of my hand. I was just only watching what I wanted, and Adam Sandler films, right? But I knew my sister was going on a date with someone, and I knew the movie, I knew the time, I knew the theater, I knew everything. And I told all my friends, let's go crash my sister's date. But little did I know that that movie was going to change my life forever, and by total accident. And that was Children of Men by Alfonso Cuarón. And I was 16 at the time. And so I go see this movie with my popcorn ready to throw it all on my sister and make her date miserable. And then this movie starts, and my popcorn's full. I'm watching the entire film of Children of Men. And I think I was so impacted by it because I've never seen anything so mature. And more than anything, I'd never seen a movie that spoke so much about humanity. And it made me see a world that I said, wow, we are not far from that. I never opened my mind to anything like that before. Mm-hmm. And the movie's over. We're at the concession stands, and my sister's like, why are you here ruining my life? But the guy that she went on a date with was a film student going to CAP. And he saw how impressed and in awe I was. And he said to me, well, I'm learning how to make movies like this in school. And I said to him, you learn about movies in school? Yeah, it's called film school. What? Like my mind was like, what? And then what changed everything, he said, and this director, he's Mexican.
That's right, yeah.
He's Mexican. Mm-hmm. You should probably check out his two amigos, Del Toro and Iñárritu. They make cool stuff just like him. Mm-hmm. And you hear these stories all the time that you see someone like you and it impacts you that much that you relate. Mm-hmm. It's exactly what happened to me. I said, someone like me made that movie, an English-speaking movie that amazing. I want to do that too. That day I said, oh my God, a Mexican made Children of Men. So I started watching Amores Perros, everything by Del Toro. I was like, y tu mamá también, and like all these movies. I'm like, my country makes crazy movies? What? Like I had no idea because I was so close-minded. And I think also at that age, moving from Mexico, I was embarrassed of giving too much of my culture in a country that's so diverse. Mm-hmm. I almost felt I didn't know where to belong. And if it wasn't for that moment, I don't think I'd be able to apply so much of me into something, which in this case, it's art, it's film. Mm-hmm. I feel like what a cool way to be able to share who you are than in movies. So that's why all my movies still to this day have something Mexican in it, have something that's proud. And I mean, so far, everything's been very political issues that I've been lucky enough to put in movies. But it really happened that way. And I really figured out, like, I guess I didn't know my identity either. But I'm very thankful for my grandma and my mom. When we moved here, they both said, in this house, you speak Spanish. In this house, you're Mexican. But the moment you walk out that door, you can do whatever you want. And I don't think if I had that, I don't know if I'd be this much in love and so proud to be able to share my Mexican heritage and background. So yeah, cool. It's a long story. I'm sorry, but that's kind of how it all went down.
Oh, you touched on so many questions that I had for you. I wonder. I see that we've got the ability to play some little clips of movies, and you mentioning your abuela and your mom. I wonder if we could play Bingo Hell, a clip of that, real quick.
Yeah, sure.
I look around this beautiful community of yours. You know what I see? Each and every one of you has a big dream. We all have that one thing that we still yearn for. They say money can't buy you happiness. I disagree.
Looks like a goddamn casino.
Welcome to the game. Are you feeling lucky?
Ese hombre is a snake.
Bingo! I got bingo!
I'm gonna be a winner.
Are you feeling lucky?
We are all that's left.
We have to do something.
What's the plan, Granny?
Should I grab my shotgun?
Are you feeling lucky?
We're probably all gonna die.
We may be older, but we still have plenty of life to live.
Who's ready to play the game?
Yeah. So that's Bingo Hell, and I had made so many films by then, and also this was right during pandemic, so nobody knew even if vaccines were gonna exist. Like we were one of the first shows to go, and the goal was to make a genre film you can watch with your grandparents. Like we were like, you know what? Like right now the world is on fire, literally, and also like it's just such a hard time for people who are older right now. That everybody, I remember my grandma was stuck at home in Cancun. We couldn't go visit her, so we were like, we just want to make something for our abuelos, you know. But then I was like, wait a second. No, the abuelos need to be the stars.
Yes.
We haven't seen them be like the leads. And honestly, I don't even know what horror movie, maybe since Needful Things, years ago, that you see seniors taking the lead. And this movie all came about was because the writer Shane McKenzie, his mother-in-law, loves bingo, but like competitively scary loves bingo. You don't mess with her. And he was telling me how if you lose there with her, she might destroy you because they're very intense. And I told him, well, you should check out my abuela with loteria. That's Mexican bingo. Run, run. And he's like, well, I wonder what would it be like if we took bingo away from them. And then we thought of that idea, and Blumhouse was like, that's such a crazy idea. We'll take it. And then we made it. I mean, low budget, but just a fun watch that you can totally watch with your grandparents. And I'm so lucky I got to make this movie before my grandma passed away. And she got to watch it with her sisters. I even have a reaction video on my Instagram for the entire end of the movie. All 5 of them, sí, dale duro, pégale. And they're like yelling at the TV, and I'm like, it worked. So it's awesome. I don't know. There's something about filmmaking that I think one thing I really like to share to any beginner filmmaker is that never look at film as a job. And never approach it hungry. But instead, if you get the opportunity, look at it as a responsibility. If you look at movies as a responsibility, you are immediately looking at it in a different perspective with something to say and with an outcome that's gonna make you feel so, so happy, and you're gonna feel that reward. Right? And I learned that lesson right away on my first pitch for Culture Shock. I approached it hungry. I approached it desperate. Until I was like, that's not the way to do it. Why? Because I'm not being honest with myself. And so I every single project since has always been a responsibility to say something.
Yeah. Well, when something's a responsibility, it takes you out of yourself. It's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about
Exactly.
delivering that in the best way that it could have been delivered.
Totally.
I really, really loved Bingo Hell for exactly the reason that you're talking about, that, you know, that an abuela was the main character, and not just her, it was her cadre, it was like her group, but it also did have so much to say. Just, you know, I mean, just battling that, like, we're living in such a capitalistic society that, like, all of your problems could go away if you just had the money. So even though that's the fun of it, what's really happening in these bingo halls is community, and
Totally.
what's getting threatened is the community itself, not. And
Exactly.
so anyway, it was just really, really cool to see that and see. To me, it spoke so much to, like, valuing elders as storytellers, connecting us to who we are and why we're here. And you ignore that at your peril.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it was such a victorious, like, nice, hopeful
thank
one.
you so
It was
much.
cool. It
I
was really
appreciate
cool.
that.
So yeah, and then so you were talking about movies or horror as escapism, but so much of what you do, like everything I watch, I'm like, this is about real stuff, you know? I mean, El Gigante, which just was terrifying, honestly, to me. I'm haunted by it. It definitely stuck with me. It stuck with me. Because, well, and you know, and I was thinking, what do I like so much about this? And it's just, I think about horror as being, yes, like there's so much blood and entrails and stuff involved, which you seem to really love to bring out, you know? Yeah. But and so it seems like, oh, maybe this is an exaggeration, but then you think about what's actually happening at the border, the U.S.-Mexico border, and how much of an exaggeration is it really? I mean, there's like some really merciless, just some of the worst human cruelty happening in people trying to pursue a better life, and so I just kept thinking the whole time, like, how much of an exaggeration is it actually?
It's honestly with El Gigante that I made that short film in school in Vancouver at CAP. 9 years ago, a long time ago. And still to this day, that's the short film that gets me a job still today. It's also the short film of why students at CAP cannot have blood at the studio. I made that legendary stamp for sure. But yeah, I mean, a film like El Gigante, I was like, you know what? We see a lot of U.S. versus Mexico and all these crossing the border stories. But I've never seen anything that maybe looks horrific enough that is Mexico versus Mexico out of desperation.
Totally.
And that is something like very real. When you're desperate, when you're in the mode of survival, anything goes. So I wanted that. And based on this book, Muerte con Carne, we based El Gigante on the first chapter of the book. Hopefully one day we can do the whole book. My mom might never talk to me again. But it's true. I think sometimes when you can just take that little risk of something that made people go, and yet, even with what you just said, maybe you don't know why it horrified you so much. That was, to me, one of the elements that I was willing to take that risk and show that. I did that also with Culture Shock, my feature debut for Blumhouse and Hulu. It's such a successful movie, but that was also a lot of risks and battles I had to do. But sometimes you got to challenge your audiences, and that's the only way that we're going to grow as fans of film. You have to challenge your audiences, even if it hurts. Even if it hurts a little bit with the subject matter or that scene or that moment, audiences are going to remember that, and they're going to have something to talk about. And it stayed with you, right?
Definitely.
And with Culture Shock, it was right in the middle of Trump era. It's all the problems at the border, families being separated. And I get the script, and I saw it, and I said, I think this is my chance and responsibility to have something to say. And making those changes in Culture Shock to really go hard in what is currently happening, it wasn't an easy yes from the studios. But it was an easy like motivation for me to say, this is the way to go, this is the way to go, this is the way to go. And sure enough, like it impacted people, and the movie's so successful today. And funny enough, in the last film I've made, now I have a ton of controversy against me in Mexico against me was VHS 85 with my segment, God of Death. I never expected that. I thought they were all going to be like, you go, girl. And then I got a lot of like, why? And I was like, oh, God. Because what happened was, and again, this is a risk I was willing to take. In the franchise of VHS, which to me is like still one of the coolest opportunities I've had as a horror director, this is a massive franchise. And I wanted my segment to be the first segment to actually be based on a historical event. To not be a made-up thing, and to be based on something real. So when the studio, Shudder, tells me, okay, year 85, just make a movie that takes place in the 80s, that's what everybody's doing. Well, in 1985, Mexico City has the most famous historical event and most destructive of the 1985 earthquake that destroyed all of Mexico City. A lot of people passed away. It's one of the most traumatizing events still to this day. And you meet any Mexican from Mexico City, it's in their skin. Like, no, we don't talk about that day. And I know my parents survived it. We have an alarm that goes every September 19th. Any Mexican hears this alarm, they all run. You know you're Mexican when just run. we know earthquake drills better than anybody else. And so I was like, I'm gonna base it on the earthquake with my twist, of course. And one thing that's very magical about Mexico City, not just, that it's sinking all the time or that we're built on top of the Aztec Empire and all these awesome things, but we always have an earthquake in mid-September. And it's very scary. It's almost the same day every single time and year. I don't know why, but it's horrifying. And even while shooting this film last year, we pushed it a week because we were too superstitious. It might shake. Sure enough, September 19th last year, it shook, and we're like, oh my God. That's why the set looks really good. It got destroyed a little bit, but it looks pretty spot on. But making this earthquake film, I was like, okay, everyone there is going to be like, yeah, represent Mexico, because that is the most Mexican segment. You want to go hard on Mexico? I give you guys this. And out of nowhere, all these tweets and videos, like 48 million views on TikTok about this fake found footage film that is so offensive to the historic event. There was this tweet I got tagged on that was like, in 2 hours, it was over 2 million views of how they thought it was a found footage documentary depicting what happened that day. And then all these articles started to pop up. The filmmaker responsible for offending us, Gigi Saul Guerrero. And I'm looking at all this like, but I'm smiling. I'm like, and so everybody, of course, is trying to find how to stream this movie and watch this movie. And I could not believe the amount of people in Mexico. And I remember the studio was like, are you worried? Are you nervous? Are you okay? I'm like, yeah. All promo is good promo. And that's why a lot of people are watching this movie. But maybe if I was younger in my career, I might have been mortified of how people are so mad at me. But then as, it all kind of died down, we just recently screened in Mexico City, and the fans were like so pumped about it because of this whole escapism fact. All of them were like, this is how you tell a story. This is so Mexico. Don't worry about what the press says. They got nothing else to worry about. Like it was kind of cool to see how it all kind of came around. But sure enough, it's such a viral segment because it really offended a lot of people. And I was willing to take that risk. So a lot of people asked me, were you okay doing that? And you have to be okay as a filmmaker. You have to be. You have to be, or else then why do you do it? You know, why did you do that? So,
Wow. So you had to wait for the rubble to die down.
Almost.
Like before.
Totally. I totally did. But it's just really interesting what it can do to people, what people can interpret out of something that you were trying to say.
Right. It's really brave, though, and I don't know. Not having known much about that event before, I just remember. Well, I just thought. First of all, there are so many amazingly you somehow fit in some really funny moments in the middle of this really devastating thing that's happening. But still, again, this connection with history. So I think if people watched it, then it's hard to imagine how they'd be truly offended because it's really
maybe it was too soon. Sometimes I don't know the answer, but it's always interesting to think what maybe it's just too soon for people.
Yeah. I think we could play a little bit of VHS 85 if
sure.
Yeah. I don't know if the clip includes your segment.
Oh yeah, it's all over it.
Yeah, okay. Good.
Oh yeah, it's all over it. Yeah.
So, why don't you just tell us where you got these videotapes from? Just tell us what they are.
We bought a video recorder. And that's when I had the first nightmare.
I don't think that you know what you're dealing with.
Give me that camera.
I started seeing these images. I recognized them.
Recognize them from where? Wanna tell me what's on this one?
Is that Beta?
Yup.
Nice.
If your God exists, does he require summoning?
Where did you get those tapes?
You saw what's on them.
That was such a cool collection. I didn't have as
you.
many clips as I wanted of yours. It was.
It's almost hard because we told the studio, don't ruin it. We were like, don't show the a few things. But it's funny because like this year, I feel like I just like invaded a ton of anthologies. Like this year was like really cool to be part of two really big ones that just really represented Mexico. Like with the newest one, Satanic Hispanics, love the title. Yes. That's the only reason I said yes. I was like, I don't know your project, but with that title, I'll do whatever you want. But it's so cool today that with an anthology like VHS that's been around for years, maybe 11 years or so, for now that we can make anthologies like Satanic Hispanics that are made by Latinos to break all stereotype about Latinos with other Latino filmmakers, I was like, that's cool. Now that is a good reason to just want to like keep going in film and not give up because it's so hard, especially starting out in genre and as a minority, as a woman. Like it's not that easy to get all these jobs, and sometimes you gotta come together with cool different projects to break that stereotype. And I'm so happy that I got to be in two anthologies that were kind of competing at the same time. And you made it when there was this amazing picture of, there was this whole group of Christians in Kansas with signs that said, blasphemy, Satanic Hispanics, do not go see this movie in theaters. It was amazing. And I remember posting that being like, you made it when. And yeah, one of the filmmakers, like he was the one that took the photo and recorded it, pretending he's just there. Right. And it was just so funny to see that. So to me, that was like a big thumbs up.
Yeah, that should be a goal. Just getting
Huge
the Bible
goal.
Belt. Just
Funniest part was they had like a Mexican Virgin Mary in their signs too, and I'm like, what? Like, okay, like, so I just couldn't believe it. I was like, that is great. That is great. And I remember he kept recording, passing by, like, for sure, guys, yeah, definitely, yeah. And he's like one of the other directors, and he's like, check this out, guys. So,
well, tell me about some of these amazing people that you work with. Like you mentioned Shane McKenzie, who, by the way, I think has maybe the best IMDb profile pic I've ever seen. He's like,
oh, Shane McKenzie, yeah, it's like
covered in gore. It's so good.
Totally.
And then and he does a lot of the writing. And then you work with Luke Bramley, the cinematographer, and Gordon Chang.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. We're with Luke Bramley and Rainer Shima. These are all BC folks. Like we're all from Vancouver, and we're the first team to ever be the two schools, the rival film schools, coming together. So that's Capilano and VFS coming together. You will never see that because we always kind of make fun of the other school, like, oh, they're probably from VFS. Like whenever someone messed up on set, that was always the joke. They're from VFS. And it was always a joke. Or at VFS, they'd be like, they're probably CAP students. So it's kind of hilarious that our company is made of the two schools. Rainer being our producer from VFS. And then you got Luke and myself from CAP. But yeah, I mean, Luke Bramley, the cinematographer, and we were the horror, like, freaks in our class. And I remember nobody wanted to work on our projects. Everybody wanted to do the comedy or like the super dramatic ones. And we had a ton of trouble always getting crew. So we broke the rules. That's what you do. You break the rules to go ahead. And what we did was, the school's fine with it now, with the truth out. But for our projects, we actually would sneak in VFS students. So we would trade our lanyards to all of them with the beep thing to get them in the studio. We were trading them in. We were getting so many of them in the school. And I remember our teacher walked in being like,
I don't recognize
who are you guys? And I'm like, oh, they're first years. Yeah. They're first years. They're here to learn from us. All right. Sounds good, guys. Yeah, seems like you're all good to go. And we got in a ton of trouble, of course, afterwards. But one thing that was crazy, I never expected it. After being in so much trouble, Luke and I ended up graduating with an award for excellence in film. And the school was like, sometimes you got to break the rules. And you guys definitely did that. They gave us our award. We were like, okay, like, this is great. So, I mean, I'm not encouraging it, but I kind of am a little bit, you know? But we just really wanted to make our stuff. Like, we didn't want to know for an answer with our projects. So that was really neat. And that's how we met Rainer. And we were like, let's actually form a team. And we've been working together ever since in every movie, every project. So it's really cool that we can represent Vancouver in the genre space and go international in our work and the two schools together as well.
That's so great. What do you feel like makes a good team?
Oh, man, well, that's a great question. I think for every filmmaker out there, new or not, you will click with someone. And I think with film, it's almost like food. It's something you bond over with. It's something you nerd out to. So if you can totally work with someone, whether it's an AD, a producer, a DP, a writer, and you can totally just hang out and nerd out about a story, that's what it's about. I think it's 100% about sharing something that you both mutually love. And understanding each other. At the end of the day, film is not a one-person show. It's an entire community. It's an entire collaboration of a whole family making a baby. Like, you are creating this thing that's gonna probably torture you in the process. But once it's out and it's alive, like, you can share that with someone, that's when you have found your people. If they don't see filmmaking as a paycheck, then those are the people you will stick with. And I think film students are the luckiest ones because they are finding their community early on. They're building their community in that class. So even in film school, I think you learn very quickly. And then in this industry, it's a lot of word of mouth. If you suck, everyone gonna know real quick that you are not cool to work with. And it starts in school. And it starts in school if you're a jerk, like, word spreads. And I've learned really quickly that the industry is really small. Hollywood is really small. Everybody knows everybody. So stay humble and you will build the best community around you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, it occurs to me that in the promo for this talk, we mentioned something about tracking you from shorts to features. And so spend a little bit of time on that. And then I'm going to open it up and see if anybody has any questions in the crowd. But yeah, like, so you did a lot of shorts and then you did some features. And what's the difference? And also maybe you could squeeze in a little bit of what you're going to do next.
Of course.
Or what you're working on now even.
No, but for sure. No, listen, like, some filmmakers make it with one short. Some filmmakers don't need to do anything. They got that aunt and uncle that work in Universal, and you're good to go, you know? But some of us, like myself, it took 17 short films till I made a feature. Some of us takes a long time. And, you know, we kept making a lot of short films. We were the first filmmakers to make short films for Crip TV, for Eli Roth, and we were doing a lot of viral hits, a ton of viral hits. Some of them were amazing, and we would make them with no money, $100, $50, maybe $200. And it was that constant practice that got me with a good grasp on how to do things efficiently, fast, but also worth it in what you should put your money in. So it stands out and it looks 100 times bigger than what your budget was of $5, you know? And I think the practice of short films, and I don't know why, I still meet a lot of filmmakers today that they think short films is like or they go, oh, it's just a short film. They always put the word just in front. Honey, please, you made something. That's awesome. And I think short films gives you the best practice to learn how to tell a story in such a short amount of time. I think that's much harder. You don't have time to expand. You don't have time to explore an entire story. So that is, to me, the biggest difference, that if you get a chance to do short films, do them. That's why I'm part of all these anthologies. I will riot if I don't get invited to more anthologies. I will make a big deal. And making so many really helped me out in every feature and every TV show. Why? Because, I'm still looked at as a director that's good with low budget. So I know what I'm doing in that sense, but yes, I can't wait to have more money and more time. I would love to use that crane that I see in the pictures. I'd love to borrow that one day. My time will come. But it's totally worth it to prove yourself in that sense and keep that indie skill goes a long way. I've met a lot of crew that you want to keep hiring people and they don't know how to go indie. And I think that's the most valuable, important skill that you should keep in your entire career as a filmmaker. Because you never know what situation you're in. Whether you're making a Marvel film and you got to do a pickup, you're like, and you just know how to do it. But I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. But yeah, shorts to features. Yeah. The other thing I will say before we move on is every short film I've done, just about every single one, the one thing I did tell myself was, if you're gonna make a short film, don't just make it as a standalone short. That's all you're gonna use it for. Always try your best to look at a short film of where else it could go. Make it feel so much bigger scale. Not by production value, but by story. That maybe this short film is a beginning of a feature. Maybe it's the beginning of a lore. Maybe it's just the beginning of an entire franchise. And that is where a lot of filmmakers have been so successful, from James Wan to, I forget the director's name, but who did Lights Out. They made the short film of those movies with nothing. And that is exactly, that model is what's helped me. I've not made a feature of any of my shorts, but every single time my work has always been said, it looks like it's part of something bigger. So that's one of the best advice that I can definitely say. Do it. It works. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, well, does anybody have any questions they want to pitch in?
How would you make a short film with that in mind, of what you just said? Would you, I guess, leave it open-ended, or would you, finish the story just with the lore? What has been the best result?
That's a great question, because I've done it in both. And it's 100% worked in both ways. Why? Because it fits the story. So at the end of the day, is whatever is best for that story, it's going to work. It's going to work because even if it totally ends and it's concluded and everything, but what you made around it, of that story, that it can fully expand, awesome. That to me is the most challenging. But open-ended, nice and easy. You want to see more? Give me your money. Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Tim.
I'm sure, like many others here, are hoping to get into our first features and are, doing shorts in the meantime. And can you talk a bit more about how you got that first feature? I know you said 17 shorts, which my heart goes out to you. That's
a lot.
A lot, but plus maybe more for Crypt TV, or does that count?
Yeah.
Okay.
Including.
I'm just curious how you finally got, after 17. What was it? One pitch meeting? Was it one project you were shepherding the whole time that you managed to finally get across the door?
Totally.
If you could talk about that.
Yeah. No. I was feeling a lot. I'll be honest. I was feeling a lot of the rejection here locally in Canada from all the grants, all the places. I think it was also, my stuff was very niche. All our stuff was very horror, very this, and I always got the not Canadian enough feedback. I don't know what that means. Sorry. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Sorry, Mom. But it was always not Canadian enough, whatever that is. And it was like, but it's me enough. And I honestly, my friend, I just took the risk and I left. I looked at my team, at Rainer and Luke, at Luchagore, and I said, I'm not leaving you guys. I'll be right back. I gotta go do this. And this was in 2018, and this was totally the mentality before pandemic, that if you wanna be somebody, you wanna make it somewhere in this business, you have to live in LA. Zoom didn't exist. FaceTime was not in a million years was that a thing to meet people. Like, you wanna make it, you come do the water bottle tour, and you meet everyone for a general at the studios with a manager and an agent.
So you had reps already?
I had reps already for a while from my short film El Gigante from so long ago, but they couldn't do much for me because I did not live in LA. Yeah, so all the reps were in LA, so I just kept working, making Crypt TV videos, finishing school, trying to, no, I'm gonna make it in Canada. I can get this. No, everywhere.
Until you moved to
Until I took the risk. They were like, yeah, let's start. Let's start. And that's what I appreciate. I'm like, okay, I'm coming. Backpack, packed shampoo. Who can take me in their sofa? Like, who? Like, I just totally went, like, hungry. Like, I gotta do this. Blumhouse was my first meeting, and I got it right there. But it was a general. Yeah. They were not going to see me for that script of Culture Shock. Mm-hmm. It was called Crossing at the time. Not a good title, but it was called Crossing at the time. Mm-hmm. And we're meeting as a general, and then, of course, they're like, well, what do you got next? I'm like, nothing. And I say, what about you guys? What are you doing now? What are you looking for? And they told me, well, we got this immigrant story crossing the border, Mexico, U.S., and I'm like, oh, well. You know, I'm just listening. But of course, I said, you should probably check out my films. I think you need to check out this movie and this movie. They're like, oh, well, you know, we're taking pitches right now. And I said right there, I'll pitch tomorrow. What do you need? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Right? And they're like, oh, so you've made a crossing the border movie? I'm like, yes, I have. yes, I have. In my head, I'm like, you might hate it. It's super gory. But sure enough, they gave me that chance. But I also really wanted that chance, right? And that's how it went. But I pitched 4 times too. Like I didn't have it easy. Like I kept being tested for it, and it was for the same project. Yeah. So that's how it happened. I left. And so I had to just keep doing a lot of projects in the U.S., Bingo Hell, The Purge, a couple others, until I now feel so happy. I mean, I'm not saying thank you, pandemic, but now I kind of am, because now we got the luxury of Zoom. I don't got to live anywhere. I can stay here, bring the work here, get the people to talk while I'm here, you know? So it totally sometimes just takes a tough decision. And I was really scared to leave. I was like, I hope my team doesn't hate me for this.
Still want you to be in LA though?
No, now it's not a thing. Now it's not a thing anymore. That was definitely very important. But one of the most important things I have learned is the difference of a manager and an agent. And that's what a lot of filmmakers cannot seem to understand, the difference. And the biggest difference that I am so thankful for is my manager, Carlos, he's like a brother to me. He's amazing. He believed in my work from the moment he saw El Gigante at Fantastic Fest 9 years ago. And he kept looking for me. I want to know who that filmmaker is. I want to know. And we just like totally got to know each other in all the parties like we all have in this amazing festival. And he never pushed for me to make any tough decisions. And a manager sees your career from like A all the way to Z. That's like a big span of 10, 20, 30 years of a career. That's what a manager sees. So an agent is a very in the now, in the here. Let's go now. This one's big. This one's out. Let's go right now. and which is great, gets you in the door. But if it wasn't for a manager that I see him as a brother, as a best friend, that I can tell him about my family problems, he wouldn't understand what means to me the most. And still to this day, my manager, Carlos, he puts a big thumbs up to anything that is Luchagore, anything that is indie. He doesn't care if he doesn't get a cut. He just wants to see the career expand. But an agent is different. An agent's like, no, I need you to do this now, which works. But it's a very different thing. And I find a lot of filmmakers, even actors with their reps, they listen too much of what they think is best for you when, no, you know what is best for you. You know what you like, and you know what you want to do. And in my case, Luchagore was always very clear, that is my brand, that is my family, and that is in Vancouver. So it's also finding the right team. As long as that takes, find the right team, for sure. Yeah.
So you mentioned you've had the opportunity to live in LA, and that's in part, what you owe some of your success to. But what brings you back? Like, I know you've spent a good portion of your life. What brings you back? What is it about BC that inspires you? And obviously the team sounds like it's part of it. But just, you mentioned a bit too about finding your fit, right? Coming at a certain age to Canada, to BC. And, finding your fit where it is diverse, but that can become part of a challenge.
Totally.
So I guess that's the first part. And then second part, curious what you're looking at working on next.
Awesome. I love that question because it's a tough one. I love that question so much. Every single time I come back, I feel so happy to live in such a beautiful place. And I am not being cliche, but I visit Mexico all the time. I visit Mexico a lot. I escape the winter every year. But I go back home all the time. And I go to work to different places in the States. I was just in Bulgaria last week for work. Like, I am so thankful to go all over the world and always go back to Mexico. But every single time I land back, I walk down YVR, and I'm like, I live in such a beautiful place. BC has it all, from community, diversity, and I think I just have a personal loyal love to it because it's where I discovered myself, and I found a place where I belonged. I found a community that I belonged. And the industry now, having worked in a few different places in Latin America and the States and in Europe, indie film in Vancouver or in BC especially is so supportive. Like, indie film is like, everyone wants to party all the time, celebrating everybody's work all the time. And there's events all the times in BC. It's so amazing to come all the way here, for example, to Chilliwack. I knew half of the people that were here. I didn't expect that. So that closeness, I think that support system that we have in BC, I have yet to see it anywhere else that amazing. I have yet to find a place where I feel like, nah, this is where I like to be, residing. So we're very lucky here.
And with our couple minutes left, can we hear
what we should
expect from you?
Sure.
What we should look for?
Well, it's been very cool lately to be spotted as the dentist on Crest commercials. So that's always, I promise there might be more random commercials that I'm in. So definitely, I'm not gonna let that job go. And all the kids voiceover shows that I do, like Coco Melon. You're like, oh, that's cute. You're like, I'll watch that. I'll watch that. But recently, last year, I got to direct my first non-horror movie, a big one. It was a biopic for a Mexican-American singer, Jenny Rivera, which was big in the States and Latin America. So I'm hoping it does the impact of what Selena did with J-Lo, so more people find out about her. So that, but I mean, on set, I was like, oh, I need a super soaker of blood. I need someone to get killed in this film quick. So that was a challenge for me. And just recently, Luchagore, we are totally going back into our indie roots and shooting a feature next year. a very different subgenre. We've never touched base on aliens, so
cool.
We're going to shoot something crazy in Mexico next year.
Oh, okay, I was going to ask if this was related to the Bulgaria trip, but no.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No,
Not aliens in Bulgaria?
Yeah, no,
I would see that movie in a heartbeat.
So yeah, you'll see something cool in that subgenre shot in Mexico next. Yeah.
I am so we could do you want to pick one of these for one more clip to just leave the taste of blood in people's mouths?
Oh yeah, I think definitely Satanic Hispanics is perfect to end with.
Okay.
I think that way your mom right there goes like, yeah, that's us, Latinos. Yeah, so definitely Satanic Hispanics is the one to watch.
Let's do it. Sure.
Everybody down! El Paso police!
Hey, why don't you fill me in?
27 dead bodies, all shot in the head. And only one survivor.
I bet he's got one hell of a story to tell.
There are portals back and forth from one realm to the other. Problem is sometimes the portals don't close once they're open. If I don't leave here within the next 90 minutes, we are all going to be dead.
Siento el palpitar de tu sangre en mis ojos.
Detectives, you have no idea what is coming.
It was fun. When they sent us the trailer, they sent us the trailer. It said all Latino, right? And then I'm like, yo, it's gotta say all Latino is, like AF. And then all the directors were like, yeah, let's do it. I'm so shocked that it really became a thing. I was like, oh, that's nice. Like, I was just kind of joking, but so I'm always like, I said that.
The shout out from Del Toro too. That was so great.
And Del Toro saw it, and this was definitely one of our most proud projects because we shot it in Catemaco, Veracruz, which is the birthplace of witchcraft. So it was very scary. So definitely, that could be a whole podcast in itself of what happened shooting there.
Oh, nice. I will watch it.
Yeah.
Watch it. Thank you for bringing me to horror, and thank you for spending this time with us.
Of course.
Of course. Yeah, such a treat.
Yay. Thank you so much. And thank you guys. Appreciate it.